She had an excuse for all of her 1-year-old's injuries, but was she telling the truth? On October 20th, 2020, two women brought a 1-year-old child into the Pine Bluff Police Department to make a report about the child. The two women had noticed several injuries on the child, whose name was Braxton. One of the women was Braxton's grandmother and the other was Braxton's aunt, and they reported that Braxton's mother, Vanessa Suggs, had been keeping Braxton away from them because he had more serious injuries and she didn't want anyone to see him with those injuries. On that day that the two women brought Braxton into the police department, police examined him and found that he had two black eyes, a large knot on the right side of his forehead, several cuts and bruises and scars on both arms. So police did photograph his injuries and make a report. Braxton's aunt told police that Vanessa tried to hide the injuries from the family, and she knew that Braxton was only getting to come around them now because Braxton's injuries were healing, which she pointed out she knew because she saw Braxton earlier in the week, and Braxton's eyes were both swollen shut. She told police that Braxton had injuries like bruises on his back. He had been burned before. And anytime anything like that was going on, Vanessa would just keep him away from family because she knew that family, especially Braxton's grandmother, would call police, take him to the emergency room, and get DHS involved. Braxton's aunt told police that she did get Vanessa to take Braxton to the emergency room at one point, but Vanessa took Braxton and left after he was triaged and the nurse put a trauma band on him. I guess maybe that freaked Vanessa out, and so she took off. Braxton never received any treatment that day because, she left before he even saw a doctor. Braxton's grandmother told police that she contacted Vanessa Suggs and told Vanessa Suggs, I want to see my grandchild, bring him to me. So Vanessa did bring him to her, but of course, when the grandmother started seeing injuries on Braxton, she said, what happened? How did he get these injuries? And Vanessa said that he fell off the bed and bumped his head. The injuries were on the right side of Braxton's head, but Vanessa, for some reason, told the grandmother that she put an ice pack on the left side of his head. But the grandmother even said the left side wasn't injured. Police did bring Vanessa in and try to question her on that same day, and Vanessa said that Braxton fell out of his bed and hit his head on the hard floor. She did admit that she took Braxton to the hospital for treatment, but she left after the trauma van deal. I'm just being really honest right now. I don't really know what happened with this case. Maybe they were investigating. I don't really know. But so yeah, I don't know if they were investigating or if they believed the story, believed it was possible that Braxton fell out of his bed and hit his head on the floor. I can tell you that Vanessa still had Braxton in her custody. DHS didn't take Braxton, and the police didn't arrest Vanessa or whatever because Vanessa it doesn't seem like she was charged with anything at that point, and Braxton was still in her custody when there was another incident on December 28th, 2020. So on December 28th, 2020, police were called to Vanessa's home in response to an unresponsive child. Vanessa told the officer that Braxton had choked on some food and wouldn't let her open his mouth to get the food out. She said that she did stick her finger in Braxton's mouth and was able to retrieve the food. But while the officer was at the home, he noticed that there were more injuries on Braxton. Braxton had a bruise on his left and right eye. EMTs also evaluated Braxton and they found more bruises than even the officer found and something that looked like burns on Braxton's back and legs. The officer asked Vanessa, what happened, and Vanessa had a story just like before. This time, Vanessa said that Braxton was playing at the playground and another child scratched him in the face right beside his eyebrow. So that accounted for the bruise on his right eye. And then Vanessa said that his left eye was black because he fell at the playground and hit his head. She said that the burns were not actually burns. It was an allergic reaction from a medication that Braxton had taken. So Vanessa wouldn't let the ambulance take Braxton to the hospital for treatment. She said she would take him to the hospital herself. So the detective had to come get in the middle of that and basically ask the ambulance service, like, what is your expert opinion? What do you think needs to happen here? And they said, we think that he needs to go to the hospital. So they were able to transport him to Arkansas Children's Hospital. Braxton was evaluated at the Children's Hospital, and doctors noticed a lot of injuries to Braxton. He had marks on his upper and lower back. He had a handprint on his upper right side of his back. He had a burn mark that was healing on his left thigh. He had bruises. He had swelling on both sides of his forehead. He had bruises on his buttocks, and he had a laceration on his left eyebrow. He did have a CT scan done, and he actually had a skull fracture with bleeding on his brain. By the time Braxton was evaluated, Vanessa had got to the hospital, and the police were like, hey, we want to talk to you at the police department. Can you follow us there? So she did. But as soon as they tried to ask her any questions, she immediately lawyered up. There was, however, a witness that came forward and said that he had seen Vanessa grab the child forcefully by his arm. She had seen Vanessa spank him with a belt, spank him with a hand, and just go completely overboard with it. Police also spoke to the daycare that Braxton was going to at the time, and the daycare said that, yes, they had noticed injuries on Braxton before, but Vanessa just always had a story. One of the things that Vanessa told the school was that Braxton scratches himself and he has serious allergies. So police did speak with the doctor a second time a few days after Braxton was evaluated, and the doctor said, no way could these injuries have happened from a fall from a bed. These are much more serious injuries than that. And it was their opinion that the injuries were the result of child abuse. So Vanessa was charged with 2 counts of endangering the welfare of a minor in the first degree and 1 count of first-degree domestic battery. Vanessa did not accept a plea deal in this case. She had a jury trial instead. And in October 2023, Vanessa Suggs was found guilty on all 3 charges. Vanessa Suggs was sentenced to 3 years in prison on each of the first-degree endangering the welfare of minors, and she was sentenced to 10 years in prison on the first-degree domestic battery. Now, those sentences will run concurrently, so that is 10 years in prison. Vanessa has not actually got to prison, so this will definitely change. It will come down some, but as of right now, Vanessa will be eligible for parole in September of 2028. Now, like I said, she is a class 4 right now because she hasn't got to prison yet. So as she works her way to a class 1, given that she behaves in prison, she will definitely be eligible for parole sooner than that. Thank you for watching this video. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share.